You're probably most familiar with analyzing paragraphs from this notion of structure, which is still taught in the secondary schools, where there's a thesis or a topic sentence, some kind of development. This is the old 3 sentences of development, and then a conclusion, which some of you may have been taught restates the topic or the thesis. This, of course, yields the 1, 4, 5 sentence paragraph, the infamous 5 sentence paragraph. It's good to think about this structure from time to time because the odds are very, very good that any author you work with has never thought about paragraphs beyond what they were taught in secondary school, in junior high, middle school, high school, maybe in a freshman English class. They all remember having to have a thesis statement approved or a topic sentence approved, having to have a first paragraph approved before they could write the rest of the document. I recall myself having to have such first paragraphs approved, and I'd go back to my desk and look at it and say, why do I have to write any more? This thing is like an outline of the whole paper. And that comes from the fact that the whole thesis, topic sentence, development, conclusion approach is actually almost 200 years old. It goes back to the first quarter of the 19th century, the 1820s, when a rhetorician named Alexander Bain, who lived in Scotland, wrote a treatise about Aristotle's notion of the beginning, the middle, and the end. That is, that every complete communication has a recognizable beginning, middle, and end. Bain said, let's look at this and see how a paragraph, an ideal paragraph, what he meant by ideal was not a model for people to follow, but a heuristic paragraph. That is a model that allows us to talk about something that has many different structures. Here's one that we'll use as a generic model, and he changed Aristotle's notion of the beginning and actually came up with the idea of the topic sentence or the thesis, the development, and the notion that there was a conclusion of some kind. But Bain was using his ideal or model paragraph to talk about a complete communication. He wasn't talking about paragraphs, he was talking about essays. And that mistake, which readers made and then put into textbooks, was to suggest that Bain's model paragraph was actually a model for paragraphs, not a model for essays. And that's why there I was in junior high going back to my desk saying, gosh, looks like I wrote an entire essay. What do I do now? So it's probably a good idea to move on from this to some preferred methods of analysis. And we prefer these because there's a variant here on Aristotle's approach, a workplace variant on the same, meaning a workplace type approach based on Aristotle, and then the one that I really want us to focus on is a more dynamic approach to understanding how paragraphs achieve coherence. And remember, coherence means how the ideas develop, how they both hang together in a coherent manner, which means you understand them intellectually. This is as opposed to cohesion, where we actually see elements structurally gluing the paragraph together, such as similarly, also, on the other hand, words from forecasters that glue elements of the paragraph together, or the given new chains that chain those sentences together with the repetition of key words and phrases. Here we're talking about how ideas develop, so that we focus on a single topic, but there's a series of moves that both state and discuss themes. That's this one down here. We're going to call it topic string, thematic string. The string means there are phrases or words associated, and what they do is they lead to a point. But first, let's look at context, content, conclusion. And I think I'll back this up just enough to see if I can get good. I think I have both beginning, middle, and end, and context, content, conclusion in the screen. These are actually the same thing. This is simply a variant on Aristotle's analysis using words that should be familiar to us by now. The notion that readers need context orienting information before you give them content. Facts, they may not be facts, but it's often facts, it's often data. This is where the stuff comes in. And then there's a conclusion. But there's something to notice here. The conclusion definitely does not restate the context. Thus, I have given you content related to this context. We don't do that in a workplace document. Instead, we talk about what is the significance of this content. What does the reader know now at the end of the paragraph that the reader did not know at the beginning? And more importantly, in a workplace document, we usually, in the conclusion, kick the reader off to the next paragraph so that there's some kind of a link or transition here that happens when we state the significance, because the significance of having got to this point is usually now we can move on to the next point. So although it's the same as beginning, middle, and end, you should think of context, content, conclusion. We have another variant that's more specific. Most business writing will be in the context of solving a problem. So context in this sense becomes stating a situation and stating a problem. That happens in the context or the beginning part of the document. Then offering solutions, and it usually is not one but a couple of solutions. Sometimes it's just one. And then the conclusion usually is why these solutions are best. We evaluate our solution, or if it's a multiple paragraph discussion, this evaluates this solution and then looks ahead to a new paragraph over here that offers a competing solution or idea. So these are both variations on the notion of a beginning, a middle, and an end. That every complete communication, and a paragraph is a complete communication, has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The one I'm most interested in introducing to you, though, is this one right here. You can find this in Joseph Williams's book on style. Any given paragraph may be analyzed perfectly well using any of these coherence strategies. The topic string says that somewhere in a paragraph, usually at the beginning, sometimes at the end, depending on how the author writes, the author will set a topic, will make a claim, will make an assertion, will state an interest in a particular topic, and you'll recognize in the who does part of the sentence the beginnings of, the nature of a topic. And then throughout the paragraph you'll see words and phrases that recall to the reader the topic. In other words, we don't state a topic at the beginning and then never state it again. There are actually specific words and specific phrases in a chain that you can find in the paragraph that create a topic string, and that's what keeps the reader on target. Similarly, the topic is developed with themes, words or phrases that we find in the document that develop the theme. And then these strings, and you can think of it also in terms of subordination. This is the main topic. These are the subordinate sub-themes that develop the topic, and there are specific words. These are words or phrases that you can point to, and that's, I use the word point because eventually there's a point sentence. The point sentence occurs either at the beginning or at the end. It's quite simple. Either we state our point and then we develop it with topic and thematic strings, or more often we state a topic, we develop it with themes, and we make our point at the end. The more common paragraph has the point sentence at the end. When I'm editing a jumbled paragraph, I don't look for a topic sentence, what I look for is a point sentence. I try to figure out what's the author's point. Where's the point? Once I find the point, I might put it up at the top just to try to unravel the spaghetti, and it's usually spaghetti strings in a bad paragraph where the topic and the theme is jumbled. That's what happens in a bad paragraph, is that things that should be topics are treated as if they are themes. Things that should be themes are treated as if they are topics. So the reader loses track of what the main topic is, the main discussion, and what the sub-discussions are that develop the topic. The point, though, is what we're trying to get to. Every reader who reads quickly, and that's every business reader, is looking for the point. What's your point? They want to know, so what? What's the point? And of course, if you write a paragraph that doesn't have a point sentence, what kind of paragraph is that? It's pointless, and you don't want to leave pointless paragraphs in. So let's look at how this works when we're actually editing something.